So, welcome to the latest NUSO Partner Spotlight. Today, we're talking with Ichthys. Start with Thom. You're the man of the hour.
I'm Thom Fiorini, the owner and founder of Ichthys IT Services, located in New England.
All right, I'll go ahead and go next. I'm Ryan Henley. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at NUSO. NUSO is a full stack cloud communications provider, providing services not only in the US, but also in the UK as well. And we're excited to have you, Thom, as one of our great partners. So thank you very much for all the work that we've done together over the past and all the exciting stuff that we've got in the future. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And I'm Tony Graham. I'm the moderator. I'm with Marketing and Communications with NUSO. So just to jump off, Thom, tell us about Ichthys.
Sure. So I started the company in '92, about 32 years ago, and I was working at the time for an international firm. Kind of divorced. I worked with them for a number of years, and then after some time, I didn't want to work for them anymore. They didn't want me to work for them anymore. It was just kind of they didn't know how to do business in the U.S. the way I knew how to do business in the U.S. So went on my way and started doing some consulting for some of the people in the industry. That particular industry was they manufactured large vacuum chambers that were used in manufacturing processes. So I mean everything, potato chip bags, compact discs, windows, pharmaceuticals, electronics, all that stuff's made under vacuum, and we did that. So it was a pretty high-tech field even in the 80s. And I was using computers as they were really being birthed in that era. The first code that I wrote was in 79, 80. And I know I don't look that old, but I am. So when I parted ways with that company, a few of my clients had connected with me and asked me to do some projects for them. And one of the projects that one of the clients had asked me about was, I've got a computer out in the shop and I've got a computer in my office. Can you get those two to talk to each other? And that was like 92. So you got to remember, that was like when it was still cool. And what does every guy who is a consultant say? Sure, I can do that. And did it because, at that point I'd written databases, I'd used computers. So we figured out how to make it work. And we did and fell in love with it. And just started taking care of clients at that point. And I've grown the business over the last 32 years. We're a small company. We focus on small businesses. We try to focus on companies that are in the professional services space. So we deal with doctors, lawyers, real estate, insurance, architects, engineers, that space. We try to focus on clients that are under 100 seats because very personal, and we try to make the company very personal. We do have some clients that are bigger than that, of course, and we do some co-managed, but that's really kind of the heart of the business. Reality is the very heart of our business is service. It's very, very, very important for us to make sure that we really do meet what the clients want, not just selling them something. We really want to take care of them. I'm a Christian, and I want my company to reflect those values. I don't know how else to describe it other than we just want to take care of them. So that's the heart of our business, and it's grown from that. I would call it very humble, I hope, humble beginnings of just some guy trying to make a living. So we have clients that span Massachusetts and Connecticut. A little bit outside that, but not much. So I don't know if that answers your question, but kind of gives you a bit of the history.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious about the origin story of the name too. You could have done anything. You could have Tom's IT Services. You could have Fiorini and Associates, but you chose Ichthys. Well, talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So Ichthys is 4th century Greek for fish. The study of ichthyology is the study of fish. And again, I'd mentioned I'm a Christian. And if you go back to the ancient history of Christianity, it was not always legal. And if you were found to be a Christian, you were oftentimes persecuted, fed to the lions. Nero would dip your head in tar and use you as a torch in his garden. It was pretty brutal. So those people didn't run around and say, hey, I'm a Christian. So they would draw an arc in the sand. And if another person was a Christian, they would draw the other arc in the sand to complete that fish. And it was a clandestine means for one Christian to know another person was a Christian. Now, in the 4th century, when Constantine took Rome, he allowed Christianity to be legal at that point. It didn't become a state religion, but it was legal. But that symbol has just kind of remained a sign of a follower of Christ. They used it as a meeting place when they were in the catacombs and in the woods and stuff like that. So companies cannot be Christian. Only people can be. So as a person, I want my company to be able to treat my clients and my employees and my vendors and whomever. I want to be able to treat them according to those values as best I can. And so hopefully that's reflected not just in the name, but in what we do.
Yeah.
You'll have to ask my customers, my employees, and my vendors if that's true or not. But that's what I try. We'll see how that goes.
I love it because especially when you tie that together with the people that you serve, and use that word deliberately. You're talking about people that are they're like you mentioned, legal practices, insurance, kind of smaller firms. Generally speaking, those firms were started by people who were really experts in those areas. They weren't experts in IT. They need the IT pieces as a tool, but it's a tool to do whatever it is that they do. And I think I'm sure that's where you come in and say, I can give you those tools and do them in a with a level of expertise that you can't do yourself. That will thus enable you to then go on and go do legal work, do insurance work, do medical work, whatever it is that you do. So it's a great connection, maybe, of bringing that service into real life.
And it's true. It's funny you use that term because we use that expression a lot with our clients, the tool. And again, it is about service, right? I've said this 1,000 times to my guys, my clients hear it all the time. I can teach a gorilla to fix a computer, but I cannot really. I mean, like it's technical. You train somebody, it works, right? But how do you teach a person to actually care about making it work on the other side? That's what matters. And I hope that's what differentiates us from our competition. And we've got to really, so use the word tool. I say that to my clients all the time. I mean, the computer's used like a hammer. You don't know that it's there until it's not working, right? You just, so your tool, where's my hammer? But we just need the business to run. And we're kind of like plumbers. We just go in and make it work and we go away, right? Nobody thinks about that. But we are so personal with our clients that, like, when one of my guys last year, his wife had a baby and our clients were sending them gifts. And we get invited to their birthday parties and we get invited to their, company picnics and stuff like that. So it really is key to us to be personally and integrally involved with our clients such that we know if they've got a problem, it matters to us for real. And it sounds like some MBA class or some marketing class, but hopefully that's not the case. I mean, we learn that from just serving them and taking care of them.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's where the rubber meets the road, is in the service.
Yeah.
I have to compliment you more than any company I've encountered, particularly in the MSP space. You wear your heart on your website.
You like that, huh?
Dedication, the dedication to service comes through, as well as the sense of humor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, we try to have fun. You saw on the website, geeks with a personality is something I've been saying for 30-something years. It's like, you don't have to be that guy with all this stuff on your belt and, being nerdy and talking in languages that people don't understand. The architect doesn't give a flip about what the technology is behind it. He just cares. I can't get my drawings out the door, So yeah, we try to keep it not technical to them, but really serve them as best we can and have fun while we're doing it. So yeah, geeks with a personality. That's our line.
I love it.
Among your businesses, the clients you serve, what do you think the breakdown is between on-premise, hybrid, or people who have gone totally cloud? And are you seeing that change?
Good question. It depends on how you define going hybrid or cloud or on-prem, whether you're talking about the data backbone infrastructure or the end user. There's really kind of two halves to that question. data structure, back end, like servers and data access, stuff like that. It's a blend by far. It's core a blend. We have some clients, a few clients that are totally on-prem, and we have a few clients that are totally in the cloud. Most of them have some type of mix. So, and we're proficient in doing both. Obviously, you have to be if you're going to stay in the space. But what we do see is something really interesting. There's been a shift almost. We're starting to see these conversations about pulling back from the cloud and starting to bring it back on-prem, which I never would have expected. But and not everywhere, because all the big ones, the Googles, the Microsofts, the AWSs, they're all saying cloud. But a lot of our clients are saying cost. And I mean, the term cloud has become bastardized. Think about this for a second. We use the term cloud to mean I can have access to it anywhere, right? So therefore we presume that means I've got to pay somebody to host it. You got to rent this space. But if I've got a server that's on-prem and I've got the right firewall and I've got the right rules in place and I've got the right services and blah, 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 and my server is connected to the cloud, to the internet, then it's in the cloud, right? And we've got clients who have their servers on-prem still, but all of their users, no matter where they are in the globe, can get their mail, can get their files, can do their work, and blah, 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 all that stuff. So if a server is connected to the internet, it's technically in the cloud. And some of our clients are starting to say, well, why am I paying the rental fee? Why am I paying rent for a third party to host it when I can pay a flat fee and keep it in-house? There are some advantages to keeping it in-house, and there's some advantages to being in the cloud. Some of the advantages to keeping it in-house is it's a lot easier to secure, keeps your monthly recurring or your operating expenses down. The risk of keeping it on-prem is that you have to make sure you've got enough redundancy in place that if there's an outage that people can still get to. Whereas in the cloud, you go from another downside to on-premise is you have got a capital expense. So your monthly recurring or your operating expense is lower. Your capital expense is higher. Pay me now, pay me later, right? So but then, of course, if I put it in the cloud, I get the redundancy, but I'm going to have a lot of higher expense over time. And it's a lot more difficult to secure stuff that's in the cloud than it is when it's on-prem. So depending on our business, our client, we'll try to model what we put around what they need. So, for example, one of our clients is a particular business. I'm limited to what I'm allowed to say. They're a particular business that security is at the absolute very top, by law and by situation, if I can be as anonymous as possible, where it has to remain secure, period, like no excuses. So that is something that's almost exclusively on site, because I can lock that down tight on a snare drum, right? Where we've got another client where they have 3 full-time employees and 40 contractors that are all over the country. So they're going to fit more in that cloud space. And their security is, and of course, everybody's concerned about security. I don't mean to downplay it, but there are different levels, right? So to them, the convenience of having it available versus loosening up the security a little bit is a gain.
So you touched on security. With this movement, you're seeing the reversal from cloud back to on-premise systems. You're definitely balancing the CapEx, OpEx. What's the total cost? How are you seeing that impacting telecom services?
We're an IT company, and I will confess that I did not want to get into telco. It was a whole other animal. We were busy enough with IT. You know what I mean? It was just one more thing I had to deal with. But like everything else, it's all hopping on the network bandwagon, right? I mean, intercom systems, security systems, blah blah blah. So everything's in the internet. So we had on the network. So we had the parameters, your refrigerator, your watch, your television. It's all on the internet, the Internet of Things, right? If I can wind the clock back, in 1992, I was at one of these clients that I was doing some contractual work for, and they had an office that had moved to California, and they needed to keep the number out of Connecticut. So of course we were doing the call forwarding back then, you know, and you'd only work for 90 days and you had to re-up it, and you know, it was very expensive and all that stuff. And I remember saying to a young lady at the time, I said, there's going to be a day when phone numbers are no longer going to be assigned to a location, but they're going to be assigned to an individual. And it's just going to go wherever they go. Now, in my mind, I was thinking about the network, the switching network that was in place at the time. You know what I mean? Never did I anticipate that would have been prophetic and would have turned out the way that it did now. I mean, somebody under 20 can't even imagine a phone number being assigned to a location. Like, well, why would you do that?
Yep. Doesn't make sense, does it?
Exactly. Yeah. But I was reluctant to get into the phone systems. But then we had to, and especially with the hosted IP, and now that POTS lines are dead, and all that kind of stuff.
And we hear this a lot, and I recognize this. I remember the '90s as well, even though, like you said, you know, I've held up really well. They were just separate, distinct organizations, even inside of a excuse me, inside of a company. You had the IT team, and then you had a telecom team, and they were separate networks. They were separate gear. There was separate everything. And that lasted for so long. I think it's the transition of adopting what you just described, where you know, a managed service provider says, "Oh, this is just an application on my network now. Voice or messaging is just an application on my network now, and it really should be a part of the suite that you're providing to the server." And you've recognized that, you're doing that. But we still have this conversation with IT, with managed service providers, who are still like, wow, you know, voice is kind of a different thing. It's, you know, and anymore, I'd say, no, it's an application that rides on the network. You're missing a piece of the customer's experience if you're not bringing it all together. And
you don't even need a telephone to be in phone service. And the thing that we recognized, I think the thing that pushed us over the edge was we began to see that the actual phone service was affecting our network and was also yielding potential vulnerabilities, and we had no control over the phone, the server that came in.
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I got some other guy who is coming into the picture with a device on my network that can potentially be compromised, and we felt like we finally had to manage that, because I know I mentioned it before about different degrees, but regardless, we take the security of the network very, 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 very seriously, because if there's a compromise, it doesn't affect only our clients, it affects us. And we kind of saw the phones as kind of almost like a big unprotected hole, if that makes sense. You know, that, and we said we have to take this into consideration, whether it was an on-prem PBX at the time, or a PBX where the PBX was on-prem, but the phones themselves were VoIP. So now I've got a phone that's outside, going through my firewall to connect to the PBX, to a hosted solution, all of that. I think that's kind of what pushed it into our space. And in some respects, it's opens up to all the other IoT stuff. It's like, okay, well, now you want your refrigerator on the network, we'll take care of it. Where before it's like, what do you know, refrigerator? You know, the day I realized it was a problem, the day I learned that, you know, when my parents bought a couch and we had to plug it in, right? We had to, I mean, like the idea of plugging in a couch. And I'm like, well, it was more than just for the leg thing, because the couch they have now has a built-in remote control for the TV that's programmable, because you don't have to lose the remote control now, it's right there. It's got the USB charger, right, that you can plug your phone in and charge, and it's got all this stuff, and it's a couch, right? But now if I get a company that says, hey, in the employee lounge, we want to put one of these in there, well, now I'm managing couches. So,
gosh, I gotta say, this is the first time I've ever heard of an IoT couch.
Yeah,
but it's
they're there. I mean, everything. You know, we were at a security conference a number of years ago, and something caught my eye, or ear, I should say, when the gentleman was speaking, and he said, at the time, the cost of putting a wireless network device in a wireless network card in any device was approximately 15 cents. because they're just so cheap, right? So he said, if it has electricity, it'll be on the network, right? So now you've got a watch that's on the network, right? I've got a doorbell on the network. I've got a garage door opener on the network, right? It really is the Internet of Things. Yeah. And we have to safeguard against that.
When you did jump into telecom, what caught your attention about NUSO, and why did you choose to partner with NUSO?
So when we started to get in the game, we started looking at a bunch of vendors. We did not know of NUSO at the time. We looked at a handful of vendors. One thing that I really wanted to do is I wanted to deal with a company that was small and that was personable, because that's the model of our business. We need to, one of the policies with our business is I know that NUSO offers auto attendant, and I apologize, but our auto attendant is at 5 rings, and I tell my guys, you have to pick up the call in 2 rings. I want them to get a human in 2 rings. If it's on 3 rings, I'm answering the phone, and they don't want me answering the phone. Okay, so because then they're going to have to answer to why I had to answer the phone. But we want to be on the phone quick, and we want our vendors to be on the phone quick. Okay, we're an IT company, we're an MSP, we know technology, so I don't want a tier 1 guy who's going to, go through his little checklist. We've already gone through the tier 1 and sometimes the tier 2 stuff. So when we are calling a vendor, it matters, right? So we wanted a company that had that kind of mentality. We wanted a company that answered the phone quick, that was technically adept. So we started shopping around, and we did sign up with one company. I would say in 32 years of business, the relationship with that company was probably in the top 3 of the worst decisions I've ever made in my business. It was terrible. It was horrible. It was another phone provider. Their phone service itself was unreliable. I did what I should have done the first time. I went to people that I knew that were in the space, that I trusted, and I asked their opinion, and I said, who do you use and why? And someone that I do a lot of business with as a partner, they're not a customer or a vendor, we do a lot of tag team business together, said that he used NUSO and referred me to you guys. And he gave me the feedback, and that's when we started investigating NUSO, and we joined you guys. And if I may say, and this is a compliment to you guys, it is night and day from that first opportunity.
Great to hear.
You really, I mean, you guys need to carry this up the food chain. You guys have been fantastic. We do get fast response. We get tech support quickly. Sales team is far more than sales. Am I allowed to say who my rep is on this call?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've been working with Tom Robert. The guy's fantastic. He goes out of his way. If I'm on the road and I can't do it, I call him. He gets it all cared for. I've screwed up a couple of LOAs on occasion. I say, Tom, can you pull the LOA? Stuff like that. He's fantastic. The onboarding team is fantastic. Your porting team is fantastic. Your tech support team is fantastic. We always get through. You guys have had a couple of service issues. Everybody has service issues. They get fixed right away. The thing that we found is that voice services has now become a commodity, right? It really is. There's 1,000 companies out there that are selling voice. There's the big players, right? Google's gobbling it up, Microsoft's gobbling it up, blah, blah, blah. So what makes me pick company A over company B? Okay, show of hands, guys. Any questions what it might be? any guesses what it might be?
Well, I'm hoping it's service.
It's service, right? Because again, I mean, anybody can start up a VoIP company. There's a million of them out there. And I don't mean to say it's a commodity to downplay the importance of the product, right? But it's equivalent to like a DNS server, right? DNS, there's a million DNS people out there, right? You got to pick one where if the DNS goes down, you can get it back up again. You lose your zone record, you can get it back up again. So the same is true of voice. It's got to work reliably, and when it doesn't, we've got to get people fast to fix it. So it's service. It's service. It's service. So unfortunately, the first time I did it, I didn't follow the normal way I did. I just kind of said, all right, we got to do it. I raced through these options. I pulled the trigger. We got a year into it, and it was a disaster. But then when I did refer to other people in the industry that I knew were using it, I got good word about NUSO and tried them with a couple of clients. It lit up nicely, and we've had absolutely fantastic success with you guys since. So.
And, it's one of the things that I try to drill into everybody is that we are an extension of your brand. You are allowing us to be an extension of your brand, and we have to look at it that way. And we have to take that as that obligation on ourselves, because if we do something, that's not right, or we do, we don't serve with excellence, that's not just reflective of us. That ends up reflecting on you as well. Yep. And you mentioned it with the previous provider. So, I also recognize that's something that we have to earn every day. And it's a never ending task. But so thank you so much for the compliment, and I'm glad you've had that experience, and that certainly is what we're striving for.
Well earned, well earned. So don't screw it up, okay?
Yeah.
No, it's true, and it's funny you talk about an extension list, because we've talked to some of our other vendors, and a lot of the vendors that we deal with, and this really frustrates me. It's all about sales. It's all about the dollars. How can we increase your monthly recurring revenue? If you take care of the customers, you take care of the clients, you do what's really, truly best for them, the money comes, right? But if you're chasing the dollar, then you're putting your ladder against the wrong building. Now, we are basically NUSO's sales team, right? We are the sales team for all of our vendors, whether it's backup, spam filtering, any kind of security service, email. We're the sales team. So, not that we want to be sales, but you know what I mean? Like you come to us and we've got a client. So if I put a product out that upsets my client, that's my reputation. Mm-hmm. That's my word. I give them a word. I say, hey, this company, NUSO or whomever, is really good. We need to go with them. And like with that first company, I said, well, this is the product that we're using for voice. And it was so bad. I mean, it was a bad reputation mark. So the fact that you recognize that you're an extension of us is one of the things that we value. That matters to us a lot.
Any particular stories stick out in your mind about deploying NUSO services with a client?
Oh, these are my favorite questions.
Any particular stories? Good ones or bad ones?
Well, preferably good ones, but as long as the bad ones end well.
So I said we focus on clients that are under 100 seats, but we do have some that are larger than that. So we do one medical practice. They've got about 250 or 260 seats. It's a big practice. They've got an in-house IT team, and we co-manage with that team. And they signed up with NUSO. With a client that large, there's a lot of risk involved, right? And a lot more of our revenue. Let's be honest. I mean, phone services for my business is what, 5% of what I do, 10% of what it's not. It's by no means the main focus of my business. It's a slice of the pie. But if I were to lose a 250 seat client because we screwed up their phone system, no, there's not enough money to make.
There's a lot more at stake than just that.
Exactly, than just voice. Yeah. So NUSO shipped us a pile of phones. I think there were 10 department managers. They shipped us 10 phones. They allowed us to run it for several months, set up a whole account, wrote into the agreement that they extended the cancellation without penalty. Tony had flown out and done a bunch of the setup and the preset. There was just like every single thing to go above and beyond. There was custom reporting that needed to be done, all even before it happened, and some of it even well after the deal happened, which is also important. It always happens, like sales. It's always happening before the sale. The question is, does it happen after the sale? So it was really, it was one that had me pretty concerned, and it was really an excellent rollout, just fantastic. And of the 250 seats, 260 seats, there were only about 120 desk phones, and the rest of them were all mobile app or desktop app, right? And so only about half were going to actually have the handset. And myself and a few of my team members were in the conference room, and we had 100 phones plus on the conference room table. We're just downloading programming, pull the stuff down, which you guys set up most of it ahead of time, and then we just had to get the wireless and a few other things. And we hit phone 101. So that was the good part, okay? Then we ran into a speed bump where we hit phone number extension 101, and all of a sudden we couldn't get the configuration. It just broke. And we're like, well, we've just done 100 phones. What's different about this phone? Oh, it's just a bad phone. So we went to the next one. No, that one bombed. We went to the next one. No, that one bombed. We went to the next one. No, what the heck? So we were troubleshooting with your guys' team. And so the good news is, the bad news is we ran into a speed bump. The good news is that NUSO jumped into the game right away and started working. But then I finally figured out that what happened was your configuration server saw that we had 100 hits from the same IP address trying to grab this configuration, and it shut us down. And then I called your support and I said, is it possible this has happened? And they go, son of a gun. And they fixed it, and then away we went. So it ended up being a good story on multiple fronts. Like, for example, you guys do have that safety net in place, right? That we're not going to let people pound us. At phone 101, so we do know what your setting is, by the way. At 100 hits, you shut it down. But it was just a great rollout, great deployment. The customer's still very, very happy. That was done about a year and a half ago now. And just last week, we got an email from them that said, hey, one of these reports that was supposed to be available, it's not presenting exactly what we wanted. So we contacted your team, and it was like, oh, yeah, we'll fix that. Like that.
That didn't just happen. There was a bunch of people that were working on that, and they were focused on the task at hand. They were focused on the request. They executed on the request. They communicated about the request, and it ended up being good. But I got to make sure that I'm reminded of the day-to-day work that went into making that an excellent experience.
Yeah. You have a good team. And that's what we want to be to our clients, and that's what we want our vendors to be with us. And it sounds like I went to an MBA class and learned this stuff. And this is what I'm supposed to repeat, right? It's like, it's so cliche, but it really isn't. I mean, we really want it to be this way. I don't know how much I can emphasize that we genuinely care. We believe that our clients' livelihood depend upon us doing good work. So my architect of 15 users, if we screw up their systems, I have 15 families that all of a sudden have a real economic crisis in their life. This medical practice with 250 users, if we screw it up, not only am I screwing up the economic livelihood of those employees, but I've got patients that all of a sudden have a problem. Yeah. So this is the stuff that keeps me up at night. And we really genuinely want to serve them well. We never chase the dollar. If it's the right product for you, we put it in. If it's what you need, we put it in. If it's not what you need, I will tell you it's not what you need.
Yeah. Thom, I had no idea we were going to connect on this level at this call, but I think that we talk about, you hear a lot of conversation about the why. Now, why do you do what you do? Why do you get up and do whatever it is that you do every day? And you just hit the why, right? It's not to do security services. It's not to do managed IT. It's to enable all of those people that are involved in that to go have successful lives. That's the cool part about what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I was fixing cars, I would hope I would have the same attitude. If I was, delivering mail, I told you that I'm a Christian, so I'm going to tell you a story that one of my pastors once said to me, which is true. You cannot name a job in the world that does not fix something. Every job fixes something. And we have to have the mindset that I'm going in to help you, to fix you, to serve you, whatever. No, I'm not talking about things like a drug dealer that's not a job. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. You know, a legitimate form of employment, you know, you are fixing something. And if you think I'm there just to earn money, you're going to end up with a miserable life. At the end of the show, you're going to have a miserable life.
That's I'm going to start looking at things now and thinking, okay, I'm going to look it through that lens and see if I can look at it, you know, all the things that we encounter on a day-to-day basis through that lens. That's great. I love it.
Particularly, I've got to compliment you. Probably the best explanation I've seen. Talking about when something fails, we're so interconnected now that impact steamrolls, that it's not just NUSO, it's not just Ichthys, it's not the medical provider. It's also everybody who goes there because of that HIPAA information. If there's a failure in the chain, because of the interconnectedness, that failure spreads and impacts a lot of people. I think that's a great awareness.
You know, I've made the comment about the auto attendant and our guys answering the phone. You know, as artificial intelligence has begun creeping into the space, it's not just artificial intelligence, it's artificial humanity. When you get the voice recognition, I mean, let's ask the honest question, okay? You call the insurance company, right? And you got to get to the claims department or the sales department or whatever department you got to get to. And all you have to do is say what you want and I'll direct your call, right? And they never get it right. And through that whole process, in all of the ways you're answering the question, the only thing that anybody ever really wants to do is what? Get to a person.
To a human.
Right? Exactly. Like we press the buttons, we hit 0, we say customer service operator. And then when you get one of those AIs that either doesn't understand, is designed to not let you get through. Sometimes they do this. The design is to not let you get through until you tell us exactly what you want. We get angry and frustrated. We realize they really don't care. They really don't care. Now, I'm not talking auto attendant like it comes in the NUSO system like that we use that says, hey, you know, it's after hours or you got these 5 things, because it's a human who is planning those call routes. There's a human who's deciding who goes where and gets what, right? And the design is to get people to the right extension or whatever. But eventually, because it's designed by a human and the decisions are made by a human, and the purpose is to get the person who they need quickly, there's nothing wrong with using an auto attendant in that capacity. But when the auto attendant itself becomes artificial, and we've all experienced it, it is a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. You hit the number or you say the thing and they route you to the next one, and the next one, you get the last one, they go back to the beginning and you get caught in that loop and you can't get out. You know, you're screaming at the phone because it's like, you know, and they can't hear you.
It goes back to your point earlier, is that these are all tools, and the tools have to be focused on what problem is it fixing. So in the case of the IVR example, what problem are you fixing? Well, I need to get you to the person who has the most experience. I need to get you to the place where you can leverage the experience that you need. So that might be technical experience, it might be billing experience, it might be ordering experience. But I need to ask you a couple of questions somehow to get you to that place. But I need to do it as quickly, as efficiently as possible.
And still give an escape hatch to a human before you get burned out.
Yes. Versus moving my problem, which is routing you to the right place, to you.
Correct.
That's just moving the problem to you.
Exactly. I've never thought about it like that, but that's brilliant. It's like you are trying to make your job easier by throwing it onto my shoulders, right? So your problem is now my problem, and when it should be customer. What's the magic word, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Customer service. you're right. I pound that word a lot. It's what makes, I think it is what makes us different from our competition.
Well, it's obvious. It comes through in all that you're saying. And I know that, and it's obvious that this is who you are at your core. And I think that's what's cool about you. Look at your website, you listen to your customers, you listen to the stories. It shines through.
Yeah. Even Abe Lincoln thinks so. You saw that on our website. Abe Lincoln thinks we're great.
That Abe Lincoln quote made my morning.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a bunch of them. If you scroll through them, there's a pile of them. We have fun with it. We try to have as much. We work like dogs. We take our work very, very seriously, but we try to have as much fun in the process as we can.
Right way to do it.
Comes through. Well, let's wrap it up there. Any final thoughts?
No, I actually appreciate the opportunity. I don't even know why you guys picked us, but I'm glad that you did. And we love working with you guys. It really is a compliment to you guys as an organization. I think that we work hard to find partners, vendors that we can genuinely partner with and not just a partner on paper. And you guys have been that for us. And so I'll just even final thought would be just thanks for that. Yeah. That's the thing for us.
Well, thanks very much, Thom. That's kind of you to say, and just know that we take that obligation very seriously, and we look forward to continuing to work with you and grow and serve for years to come.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the opportunity.